Folks, welcome back to another episode of the Get Wired podcast. If you are new here, these episodes essentially, we sit down, we talk about something reselling, something business. Usually we're cutting wire, or maybe we're doing some work, or we might be sorting clothes. Last couple of episodes have kind of just been a sit down, simply because a few different things have been happening over in the e-way section, and I haven't really had much wire to cut. But I still wanted to be consistent with these videos. And last week we did talk about, backing yourself and being consistent and making sure that you're showing up and being willing to put in the work. And there's been a lot of questions and comments around, how do I stay motivated? Where do I find my motivation? And I did talk about that in my weekly video, which actually comes out next Monday, but at the time of this video, but so a little bit out of whack. But my point is I kind of wanted to just reflect a little bit and share with you all of why it's really important to stick to your guns, and why is it really important to, know what you want, and also be willing to learn and, figure things out on the fly. And, one of the best quotes that I ever read as a kid when I was reading Richard Branson's book about, how he got into business was, when a good opportunity comes along, you say yes, and then you figure out how. Building a business, reselling, eBay, e-commerce, anything, a lot of it comes down to problem solving. And there's been a lot of thought patterns that I've had over the last, probably just the more last, couple of few hours while thinking about what am I going to talk about today. And one of them is really just about the problem solving, about backing yourself, kind of like what we spoke about last week, but also just, where the motivation comes from. And look, there's a lot of the motivation side of things, which, is personal and from my own, core beliefs, from when I was younger. And we're going to get straight into it here. So folks, if you want to listen, if you want to list, if you want to do some work while listening, that's all good, but we're getting straight into it. So, when I was younger, I always wanted to have my own business. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know, how it was going to come to life. All I knew is I wanted it. And, 15 years later, when I was still working 9 to 5, great job, I was really challenged by what am I doing all this for if I've got all these dreams, but I'm not doing anything that's going to get me closer to where those dreams are. And I think one of the things that kind of prompted me was someone else told me that, they wanted to be a business owner by 30. And, I think they were 22 at the time. And, I said, okay, so what are you doing to get there? And they said, nothing. I don't know, just figure it out. And it's that kind of challenged me, because it's I don't want to be that person. I want to know that what I'm doing is getting me to where I want to be going. And that really struck me quite hard. So more thinking about it, and I realized, you know what, stuff this, let's leave the 9 to 5, rip the Band-Aid off and go figure out how to build a business. Now, there's been a lot of lessons in that, a lot of things that I've done right, a lot of things that I've done wrong. But it's taken my time to get there, and, we're still learning, of course. And one thing that kind of just prompted me about all of this, it was just interesting, and I've got the video here. I was kind of watching back where I was literally a year ago. So today is the 16th of October, 2025, and I've been documenting this journey for a long time. So on my YouTube just here, this is going to probably be a bit butchered, but this is Friday, 11th of October, and I'm going to turn this up and we're going to just quickly play this back, if it works. I was just checking my latest dashboard, seeing how things are looking. I do have a pretty exciting milestone that I want to share. Look, it's, again, for those that don't really care about revenue, but for me, it's a big deal because it's been a journey. So as of today, we have hit $500,000 since I started on the 11th of Jan, 2021. It took me 579 days to do my first 100. Then it took me another 296 to do another 100. And then it took me 241 to do another 300. And then it took me 137 days to do to my 400, which is 100, another 100. And it's taken me 115 days to do 100,000 to get to 500. And now it's tracking to be 117 days to get to 600K. So that will probably come down once we start to increase a little bit, but what a milestone, $500,000 in starting in revenue. So that was a year ago, folks. And the reason why I find it so important that we have to be, keeping ourselves in check, reflecting, learning, documenting, and tracking the wins is because a year ago, that's where we were. 1 year later, I'm now sitting on 934,000 revenue. So we've done $434,000 in 365 days, right? Which is just crazy. 434,000, we just say divided by 365. So we've been averaging $1,189 a day since then. And, it took me to get to the 700, it was 94 days. To get me to the 800, it was 78 days. To get me to the $900,000 mark, it was 70 days. And we're on track to do 1 million in 74 days. Actually, it's going to be less than that now. It's 48 days till we're going to hit that date. But my point is, I just wanted to show that when you put your mind to something because you're motivated for it, you put in the work, you take the time, you figure it out, that's how you get results. Now, obviously there's going to be people saying that, oh, what about the profit and all that? Yeah, sure, the profit isn't much. Profit's probably about 15%. And I don't know how many times I have to say it. The way I build my business is very different to everyone else. I take a lot of the profit. I mean, I probably have not needed to spend the amount of money that I've spent to grow the business as quickly as I've grown it. And I could have just had the money and used the money for other things. But for me, it's the way I want to slingshot the business. And I don't need all that profit right now to be able to, live the life that I want. Because right now, my focus is let's get the business bigger and better and greater. So therefore, let's double down and invest in the business. So putting as much profit back into the business as possible. That's why I think people forget that if I have a low profit, it's because I've had a higher expense. And if that expense was an investment or something putting into the business, then in some sense, it's just turning that profit into an asset or something that generates more revenue, which enables us to grow, and grow. Anyway, so one thing I wanted to talk about was, kind of like where some of the motivation comes from. And I did answer this question already, but a lot of the motivation for me really comes down to, I guess, knowing where I want to be. And I'm actually just going to bring up the same notes that I had mentioned. I'm just bringing it up here so I don't butcher what I was saying. But the point is, it's like I knew what I wanted when I was younger. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So now that I've been able to take that on and figure that out, it's given me a level of ownership. Now, there's also this level of accountability of I know what I want in a certain period of time, and no one else is going to give me that. So unless I go do the work, how else am I going to get that result? And that keeps me accountable, keeps me motivated, and keeps me excited. Of course, I'm also building it for a lifestyle that I want to have with Carla, my partner, and where we want to be in the future. And hopefully this will be the machine and engine that enables that to happen. So same thing. No one else is going to come and do that for you. You got to do that yourself. But the other element that I love about this whole reselling game or eBay or business or anything like that is the problem solving and the upskilling. Now, I've always loved to play RuneScape, old school RuneScape. I've been playing that ever since I was in grade 8, back in high school. And there's this concept of an Ironman. An Ironman is a self-sufficient player that basically can't trade with other players. They can't use the market. It's called the Grand Exchange. So you can't just buy stuff and just have all the stuff that you want. You have to go train your skills and do everything in a certain way and get it yourself. Like, so for instance, if I was just a normal player and I purchased membership today, I could jump onto the game. I could buy the best item in the world if I wanted to, right? Like, if I had the, obviously the gold pieces to do it. But it doesn't matter whether I'm level 3 or level 99, I could go buy that thing. And it also means you could, literally be ahead of everyone else because you might be a low level with a really good item. But on an Ironman, the only way to get that item is you have to do the grind. You have to get your skills up to a certain level where you can access a certain quest, that you can access a certain boss, that you can then access certain skills to kill that boss, to then hopefully get an RNG, which is a roll of a dice, so a random chance of getting that item. And then if you get that item, you might need to be a certain level to be able to wield that item. Now, to be able to wield that item, you also might have to be able to, you might have to forge it in a certain way. So to get that, you have to get an alternative skill up. To get that alternative skill up, you might have to do a different quest. To do those quests, you might have to be a different level on something else. So you get my point. There's so many things that you have to do to level up and to grow. And that's why I love that game so much, is because every time you're doing it, you're feeling productive. You're feeling like you're doing something that's going to get you further ahead. And that is the same for business. You've got to be doing things on a daily basis, on a regular basis, that's going to enable you to get yourself to where you want to be. However, it's not as simple as things just happen immediately. It is a grind. It takes time. And to me, I'm motivated for that because when I look back a year later and see that, look at the results that we've done, look at the progress that we've made, see the achievements that have been able to be possible when you put yourself into practice, but also when you build something that's obviously going to be able to create more than just yourself. And I'm very grateful for that. So this is just a quick episode to really just remind you that, hey, if you want it, go get it. Be willing to upskill, be willing to learn, be willing to problem solve, be willing to grind away. But at the same time, make decisions that are relevant for you, make decisions that's going to get you closer to where you want to be. And for all those that, think it's a joke or think that it's not worth it or think that, what you're doing is ridiculous or, whatever, stuff them. Because at the end of the day, what do they know about you? What do they know about your life? Now, there is people that genuinely know way better than all of us, right? And that's always going to be the case. There's always going to be people behind you. There's always going to be people at the same level as you. And then there's going to be people way ahead of you as well. And those are the people you want to learn from. Those are the people you want to be inspired by. Those are the people that you want to seek motivation from. But you don't want to copy them. I'm not here to say, copy me and I tell you how to do reselling. I tell you how to do business. What I am going to tell you is what has worked for me, how I find the motivation, how I find the excitement, how I find the energy to go out there and make this stuff happen. A lot of it I'm still figuring out. Even now, we're seeing dips, we're seeing challenges, we're seeing things that I've never had to experience before. And I have to figure out how to experience them, meaning how to work through them, how to solve those problems. And I could give up, I could say it's not worth it and, back out of it and run away from it. But no, embrace the challenge, embrace the problem, and see what you can do to get a better outcome from that. So that's my little motivation for you. Quick 12-minute video. I hope it helps, short and sweet. But let me know down below what motivates you, what gets you excited, and what are some of the lessons that you can take from a year ago, right? I never thought I'd be nearly close to hitting $1 million a year ago. And to think this time last year, I didn't have a warehouse. I didn't even have one of my big consignments. It's just to think I didn't even have my 5 storage units then yet. I think I had 4 at the time. So things change very quickly when you're willing to make change happen. Just comes down to how willing are you to see the change that you want to see. Are you willing to do the work or are you simply just waiting for it to happen? It won't just happen. You got to do the work. All right, that's it from me, team. Appreciate being here. I will be back here again next week, doing it all again. If you've got any questions or any ideas or any things that you want me to talk about, chuck them down below in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Ciao.